Hello, hello. Hi, it's John Binnie. I'm in my camper van. I'm busy driving it to the garage to get a coolant-related problem fixed before my adventure down to the very south of England at the weekend. My GPS is busy chatting away in my ear about directions. So I'm driving to the other side of Edinburgh, and we will see how we get on at the garage. So you've been asking me lots of questions, and I love questions. So today's questions are about spirit guides. Let me turn you around so you can see the beautiful Scottish weather. If you like weather like this, then this is like Scotland most of the time, and then sometimes we get sunshine, and sometimes this is rain. But as you can see, it's also very, very beautiful, so I feel very blessed to live in such a beautiful part of the planet, and a beautiful planet. So, spirit guides. I'm going to start with the more recent questions you've been asking me, and then I'll just continue on with some of the other questions. So if you've listened to recent videos, like I did a video yesterday about a walking video about answering your questions about spirit guides, feel free to skip this video, but you never know, the first couple of questions may be super helpful for you. Okay, and I also need coffee, which I have prepared here in my flask, so 1 second. Okay, so a recent question, I think this is a question from Angela. If it wasn't from Angela, thank you to whoever it was from. And you're asking about how do spirit guides work together? Wow, isn't this a fascinating question? I would describe my experience. So the way I work is with, every day I'm working with my own spirit guides, and most days, so certainly as part of my now professional day job, and I've been doing it full time for the last 11 months, and prior to that, part-time as a hobby. But in my quantum psychic healing sessions, one of the first things I do typically is bring forwards a spirit guide from one of the spirit guides for my client, and we ask them specifically to help us with the challenges that we face in the session. So there'll be a specific objective set. Like common ones are things like, please help me, unblock these parts of my life, or my specific parts of my body, or chakras. It might be some help with healing some physical conditions, and then also connecting in to understand more about their life purpose and mission in this life. So, what's really interesting, and I don't say this just because you might be interested in the structure of a session, it's because I set a clear intention about what I want help with. And so there's a few kind of founding principles that I often see spirit guides adhering to. So the first would be your free will. So you have free will, and they're just highly respectful of your free will. So for example, if you want help with something, you need to ask, and you need to ask them. You need to ask your spirit guides. And I do this by saying it loud. I'll say, spirit guides, please give me a message for the highest good love and compassion of all, and that's what I ask for each day, just like I asked for this morning. The other thing that spirit guides do is they're often very, just as respectful for other people's free will and their sovereignty. So this includes your friends, your family, loved ones, anyone around the world. So they will be, they wouldn't just go and do something to someone or for someone else just because you asked. Like they would be highly respectful of the free will of other beings. And the way that I often see spirit guides working is that, to begin with, clients will just kind of meet their spirit guides as a term, almost like as this unified amorphous, is that right? Is that the right word? Amorphous body. So they're almost like a team, a collective, and the individual they don't really know who's who, which is which spirit guide, no pun intended, or pun intended. And so they really just, go into, they ask to talk to their spirit guides, and they get an answer. Now, I still do that to this day, but only when I don't mind which of the spirit guides answers, and it's often in a case where I have a generic question. So, for example, when I ask for a message for the highest good, love and compassion of all, I'm asking my spirit guides as a team, because they'll answer me as a team, and typically one of them will step forwards to provide the answer. And I feel like, to begin with, the whole attunement and communion, the connection, the union with your spirit guides in a conscious manner is that you connect with all of them to begin with through one of them. So it's like there'd be a kind of spokes being, if you like, a spokesperson that says hello and says, okay, I'm your spirit guides, talk to me as your spirit guides. So just to be clear, that only happens when you've created a safe space, or sorry, it doesn't only happen then, but to do it safely, create a safe space, like I practice in all my guided meditations. You can check them out, they're free on my website, like my 14-day Spirit Guide Meditation Challenge. And when you've created a safe space and you invite into that space your spirit guides, and then you address any questions to the term spirit guides, these are the beings that will answer. And you can have confidence and a feeling of safety that this is what will happen. And I can't reiterate that point enough, that you can, almost completely rule out any other random being coming in and claiming to be your spirit guides when you set the intention of these a protective space, first of all. And this isn't to judge others that don't do that, but if you work with others, or you see other people, just connecting with their spirit guides, but without any, safety, protection, or ethics behind what they do, then, just treat that with your own discernment and high judgment, and figure out if it feels right and feels safe for you, no matter how astounding their abilities appear to be, right? Because many beings around the universe can claim, can yield such powerful abilities. Doesn't mean to say they have your highest good, love and compassion in their hearts. Okay, so yeah, that first step, that first initiation of working with your team is often through one spirit guide. And it's a bit like, often when you meet a a new group of friends, you're kind of introduced by one of them, and there's this kind of connection that you create between you. There's an attunement between the two of you, and that's real lovely. I also feel that it helps the spirit guides themselves, right? I feel that they find it easier once they have a voice at their frequency representing you more clearly, then that two-way conversations and communications can be more freely established. And I love that. I think it's a really lovely paradigm. And so, continuing to answer how spirit guides kind of self-organize, I would say that they do have work to do. If we think of when for example, when I worked at Amazon, and this is not just exclusive to Amazon, but some of Amazon's approaches are more unique, certainly at scale. They often follow this agile, Scrum software development approach, and with the Scrum aspects, there's this notion that a team of around 8 there's something magic about the team of 8, right? It's something that allows sufficient diversity within the team, that it allows different roles. In software, there was several software developers. There would be, I would have a couple of applied scientists or AI scientists is our other title, and I might have a designer for doing front-end designs. I might have someone that specializes with different superpowers. So they might have the same role, like software developer, but maybe one would be able to help build infrastructure, another would be good at the data side, another would be good at integration with other systems, and so on. And then there'd be, my role was to lead teams like that, or teams of teams like that. And so these are all really important and powerful roles that our spirit guides has, and okay, they don't develop software, but each of them has their own superpower. Each of them has been chosen to by you to work with them as a partnership. And I did say this in yesterday's video, that I feel that all beings across the universe are equal. And I think that's really important to understand about your spirit guides. They may well be, you could argue, oh, they're wiser than me. They're not necessarily wiser at being a human than you. They're just wiser at being them than you. They may be, may have stronger superpowers or be able to yield their superpowers more effectively than you. Well, yes, that's true, but it doesn't mean that they're any better than you. They're just on a, they're further on their journey. Plus, it's slightly easier for them to yield their gifts, their superpowers in the 5th dimension, where intention and energy has much more of a dramatic effect on the reality around you. Whereas in the 3rd dimension here, it takes, we have to deal with stresses and strains and the fear and taxes and going to the toilet and all these things. Don't ask me if spirit guides go to the toilet or not. You can guess. So right down here on Earth, it's a bigger journey for us, right? The lower the density you go, the harder it is to yield a high vibration superpower. That's a whole other topic. But I just want to call out some of these differences of our experiences between us and our guides, and to help you understand that it is absolutely equality and a partnership. And then so I could talk a bit about the way my spirit guides and some of what I witness with in my clients is my team often have 2 or 3 that are step forwards and more closely with me at any time. So right now, Maya continues to be my main go-to guide. So she's like my primary representative, my primary guide, if you like. She's been like that since day one in November 2017. And I feel like she's always going to be on my team. It feels like a great love and permanency to her role in the team. She doesn't lead the team, but more that she spent, I feel like I'm closest to her vibrationally, and there's just a very strong, loving connection between the two of us. And I feel like part of that is her own superpowers, like her strong connection to her sister Gaia. I also have Marita, my Mantis guide, and she represents a lot of the galactic aspects of my work, and so she often steps in to help me understand what's going on in the world, in the solar system, in the galaxy, in the universe, and how to connect with and relate to and to channel galactic beings, extraterrestrials. And then my Lyran guide, Emenshal, he's this really powerful, divine, masculine lion being, and he's around. He's always there, and yet his fire and his roar step forwards whenever I need more protection, or how to describe it, like fatherly advice. He has been my father when I was on Lyra, so he's fantastic. And although he's been my father in the past, I do feel equal to him. And then other guides, like Moya, my dragon guide, like she'll come in and out whenever I need help. And I have a range of other guides that I rabbit on about. But yeah, out of the 8 or so active guides that I have, these 3 right now as we speak are the most active with me, and it's because I'm working on specific things, right? So just like in my software development teams of 8, when I would be working with them on projects, if we were busy talking to a team about data, then I would have perhaps like the lead developer, a lead scientist, or a representative of one of the AI scientists, and then the developer that was closest to building the data infrastructure, and I would go to a meeting with them. So it's like I'd ask the team, okay, I've got this meeting, we're going to talk to this other team about designing our data store, and they're going to help with X, Y, and Z, so let's get together. So it's like having a specialized sub-team, if you like, to help with more specific tasks. And although I use the term sub-team, like I don't feel that it's super helpful to divide, like to consciously divide your spirit guides, because if we humans in the third dimension had a sub-team, there would often be maybe three people out of 8 that would be going around doing different things and would have less contact with the rest of the team. I don't think that's true for spirit guides. I feel like whatever they're specializing in, they're always in contact with each other. And that brings me on to some of the ways in which they communicate with each other. What I see is that often they'll connect with each other in unity consciousness. And this is also connected to the power of 8, the power of a team of 8. I'm just asking my spirit guide Maya about it, and she's explaining that what they do is they connect their hearts together. So they imagine 8 beings from around the universe that are your spirit guides, and they're standing in a circle, a bit like they were standing around a campfire, and they connect their heart from, one heart to the next. So like it would be, if I was in the circle, it would be from my heart to the right, receiving on the left side of the being next to me, and so it goes around the circle, and we connect our hearts in unity. And when spirit guides do this together, they create this, you remember I was saying earlier, a bit like feeling like this kind of like amorphous blob. In unity, they become more like one being. But what seemed, the bit that was new to me, that my guide Maya has just explained to me, is that it's not just this number of 8, has many advantages, and one of them is that 8 is a beautiful balance between unity, where the plus side is, the benefits are that all people, all beings come together and connect and can communicate as one voice. But they also, at 8, there's still this, it's still more easy to hear the voice of each individual within the group of 8. So isn't that cool? So imagine there's you. So imagine you're stood outside of the circle of your spirit guides, and you're connecting with one of them. So in my case, I'll be talking to Maya, and when I talk to her, I can feel the energy of her heart, and through her heart, she can also bring in the energy of different spirit guides. Now, I'm not saying that happens all the time and that's true for everybody. This is what my guide Maya is showing me. Like, this is one of the ways that spirit guides can choose to self-organize. And then I was also shown that when that evolves further, that she's calling me a client, which I love. As I get closer to and connect more regularly and freely and without fear with my spirit guides, that I then step into the center of that circle. And what I can do is allow my heart to open up and connect in unity to all of my spirit guides. And I think that's really a really wonderful visual, right? And so then I don't need to ask Maya, please, get me an answer from Marita, Emenshal, or Muria. I can just be stood in the center of the circle and turn my attention, my focus, my consciousness to one of my guides by calling them by name, or I might reference them by their origin, and then ask and say, hey, Lyran guide Emenshal, help me with this entity clearing I'm about to do. And that connection feels direct. Yet all the guides are connected together. They're all listening to what's going on. They're all feeling into what's going on. So that's wonderful, right? And then another question that you asked was, can you ask your spirit guides to go and do stuff to or for other people? I would say, if you're asking John, because I'm going to ask my guide Maya in a moment, but I would say in simple terms, as a human response, in my human opinion, that my short answer would be no. And the reasons I give for that are that our spirit guides are assigned to us to work with us, and we gave consent, our souls gave consent, and our incarnation gave consent to work with them right at the start of our lives. If this is not true for any other being, right? No other being has said, oh yeah, sure, I would love, John's spirit guides to do X, Y, and Z for me. This is not the case, right? And so asking your spirit guides to go and do something to or for someone else, for example, a loved one, directly, then you're you're likely outside of the bounds of that consent. You're outside of the bounds of free will. So, I mean, then the rest, for example, you asking maybe, one of, like, a loved one, would it be okay if one of my spirit guides had a talk with you, or your spirit guides? These are all, these are all, how to describe it, case by case, consent-based decisions and experiences. So I wouldn't necessarily encourage that, but it can happen, and people can do it. It's just I prefer to keep things simple. Now, I also explained recently that this sometimes spirit guides will go and contact others that you know and that you have a strong connection with. And my spirit guides did contact my friend Sarah, UFO Girly, and as we shared in a recent video together, she shared a message from them. And I know and love and trust Sarah as a friend to know that she wouldn't lie. The message was, I have this message from your spirit guides, kind of unprompted. She was very cautious about it. She wasn't really sure she wanted to, and she was very humbled by the opportunity to give me a message. And one of my the ability to receive that message from her, when I was using my discernment, the first thing as she started to explain the message was I realized that, like, this is a message that my guides have been on at me for weeks, maybe months, and that my guides had decided to step out of my direct contact to kind of break ranks, if you like, and go and bring in someone else that could share the same message, because they knew that it would have a more significant effect, and it did, and that it was really important. And it regards my health and not burning out too much and not working too hard, and that it really helped me remember all those times they've been telling me, John, you've got to slow down. John, you've got to do less client sessions. Like, it's all happening. It's all happening at the right pace. Stop trying to push the river, the river flow, which is impossible, right? Push a river uphill. So that was, one example of my guides stepping out of, and it's not the only time they've contacted other people. There was also details. You can watch the video yourself. It's on my YouTube channel. But there was other aspects that Sarah got completely right, and that she would not have known. Like, I've not really said these things to her or publicly. So these are just ways of being able to discern these different aspects of if someone claims to have a message. The other thing you can do is just listen to the message, if that's what you agree to do, and then go away and ask your spirit guides and say, guides, did you give this person, first of all, a message to give to me, right? And then just feel into your heart and ask yourself, how real that feels. Is it a resounding yes, or is it not sure, or no? And then you can ask maybe more about the specifics. Say, look, I'm really interested in knowing a bit more about the detail, or you can ask them for follow-ups. Like, these are all things that you can do yourself. So that's one way of doing it. There was something else. There are some. Now this totally blows my mind. There are some occasions where spirit guides are shared between different people or work between different people at the same time. I've had this, and it totally blows my mind. So I've experienced this with me, and it was before really I started doing client sessions. And one of my dear friends, I can't remember if I've shared this publicly, so I'll not name them. But one of my friends was, describing one of their spirit guides, and I was like, and then they gave their name, and I said, that's my spirit guide. And what I started to see was that at that time, the spirit guide was active between the two of us. So a bit like being, I don't know if they were just an honorary member of my team, or if I didn't know at the time if they were permanent or how it was going to work. But that was really powerful and beautiful, and it went on for several weeks, if not months. And I just really enjoyed that. I enjoyed them, coming. They'd come and visit me, and they'd share messages, and often there was work and missions we were doing together, and it was a really beautiful, free-flowing experience. I've also met quite a few, how to describe them, somewhere between different archangels and other deities, or famous spiritual gurus or people that have since passed on, as in, if they were alive as a human at some point, they're now dead, and we're speaking with their soul and their incarnation. But yeah, what's really fascinating is that they turn up, and they can be turning up for more than one of my clients, right? And typical examples include Archangel Uriel, Archangel Michael, sometimes Archangel Raphael, and other archangels and other deities that I work with. Now, I use the word deity because it's a convenient term, but really they're equal, right? It's not, and I think that's a really fascinating question. Sometimes people will ask, "Oh, John, could I get a more powerful spirit guide?" Or I'd love a spirit guide that could do this or that, or oh, I've got some spirit guides that are much higher vibration than others. Can I get more that are higher vibration? We do have to let go of these hierarchies, right? These hierarchies do not exist in the universe. No being is more important than another, and some of the not so subtleties of this are not really obvious to us, right? If that was really true, then we would be commanded by our God, or gods, or deities, or angels, or high vibration beings to do things all the time at their, to do their bidding, right? To do their every whim and every request. We would be subservient to them because they would be superior to us. This is not true, right? And it's a bit of a red flag, and I get nervous when people are saying to me, "Oh, I just did it because my spirit guides told me to," and they're in a kind of complete surrender situation with their spirit guides. There's no filter, there's no discernment, there's no clear thought, objective thought as a human about whether they should actually do it or not. And that's not to say that your spirit guides can give you bad advice against your highest good, but they're not perfect either, right? And also they have their own opinions, they have their own free will. Our spirit guides are just another being in the universe, and yeah, sure, they're fantastic and wise and able to help you, but there's some things you may not agree with, and I'd encourage you to have a conversation if it doesn't immediately feel right to you. I'd say most of the time we'd seem to naturally do that, because often the advice that they give is quite heart and mind opening or blowing. We'd be like, "Oh, I have to leave my corporate job and start up as a psychic spiritual mentor." Yes. Oh, okay. Will I be able to survive? Like, can I keep my home and pay my bills? It's like, yes, but it's going to be hard because you need to do a lot of healing first. And like, oh, what healing do I need to do first? It's like, well, you've got to get over your fear of lack. Oh, how am I going to do that? Oh, you're going to leave your corporate job. It's like, oh, okay. Like you've got to feel into these things. And I feel like maybe the other thing that isn't super obvious to you is that your spirit guides, they mirror, they match, they mimic, maybe mimic's the wrong word, they match and mirror your capabilities. Often, as I've said in previous videos, they have a shared past life with you, but often you've like trained together, like they've been your apprentice, you've been their apprentice, with specific superpowers, and during those times, what that means is, for example, is if I have, let's say I learned to fly, right? That'd be so cool, right? If none of my spirit guides experienced a journey of being like a dense third dimensional human, and then they learn to fly. If they'd never had that, or similar, there'd been some sort of physical being, and then they learned how to fly, and there was no other, or apparently no other beings on that planet that could, of that species, that could do it. Like, these are really important superpowers to have. And so what tends to happen is that one of your spirit guides will have this ability. And so you can ask that question, right? You can say, oh, for example, I really want to work on my third eye. Could someone help me with my third eye? I'd like to be able to activate it. Who's got experience of activations, or who has the most gifted third eye? I just tend to ask the open question, which is, spirit guides, please help me with my third eye activation, and they will self-organize and find the right spirit guide to help you in that moment. Now, I would say your spirit guides they're not restricted, and this depends on the spirit guide, but in their capabilities, but I don't feel they're constricted to the same time and space that we often focus on, right? As especially linear time. And I feel like they do have a pretty good idea of what's coming up next, what's what you need next. So they're always kind of a bit of a step ahead, right? It feels like they always seem to have a vague understanding of what it is they should be doing to best support you next. And some of those things include being able to figure out which spirit guide should come and help next. And they might find, for example, that they don't have someone on the team that could help you, and they'll likely have known this. And I feel the way they know, like this, it's not rocket science for them, right? It's quite simple. For example, if they began to detect within you, because they can see you all the time, feel you all the time, unless you blocked them or fired them, that if they detect within you that there's a crown chakra activation beginning to happen, or you're like just about ready to do it, but none of them really have much experience with crown chakra activations, and they feel like you could really do with some help, what they'll do is they'll self-organize and invite in one of like the spirit guide team on the bench. So you might have 8 active, and then maybe there's another, like, well, it can be 10, 20, 30, 40, yeah, I've seen up to, I think, about 38 inactive or spirit guides on standby. So that's really good to know, right? That they've got your back, literally, that they're looking out for you, and that they're ready to bring in help whenever it feels like it would be it'd be good for you. So that's fun. And when new spirit guides turn up, and I've had this a lot. I've had quite big changes in my spirit guide team over the years. I'd encourage you to, just like if it was a new team member joining, let's say you had a job and there was 8 of you and one of them stepped more to the side, or often what happens is an overlap, kind of handover period. So you'll go up to like 9 guides, even maybe sometimes 10 or a little bit more, while some are coming in and some are preparing to step back. And isn't that really cool? So just like if someone new started at your office or your workplace and joined a team of 8, a team of 8, everyone knows each other, right? They at least know some fun facts about each other, like, oh, what's your hobby? Where do you live? What's your superpowers? What's your experience? Like, well, you have these human conversations. And I'd encourage you to do this with your new spirit guides. So first of all, like, practice safety, so have a safe space, invite in your spirit guides. Know that when you invite in your spirit guides, this being, because they will have, like, you've already given prior consent for them to be on your team, they've just been sat on the bench at the back, on the back row, and now that they've stepped forwards, their energy may well feel quite different, right? It'll feel, for me, it often feels very new and very sparkly and exciting. But I never trust a being that just says, oh, I'm your new spirit guide. I'm your new spirit guide. You can trust me. I really look out for discernment. So what I do is just still ask my spirit guides. If you know some of the names of, spirit guides, like, ask one of them and say, so I'd ask Maya, who is this being? Is this a new spirit guide? So the other way, if you don't know the individual spirit guides, I'd say out loud, spirit guides, is this being one of you? So always go like simple questions, try and get a yes or no answers to them, right? And then just do the friendly human thing, right? Start to say hello if it's a yes and it feels right. Talk to this new spirit guide and have a good chat with them. Find out where they're from, why they're here to help. I'm always really, really curious, like, what's your superpower? Why have you stepped forwards to help me at this time? And I would say, earlier on in my journey, I didn't really have strong connections with, I had less connections and less activity with beings from around the universe, whereas now it's like a daily, many times a day occurrence. And so, for example, Marita, my mantis guide, she came, later. It wasn't until later that she came forwards. I feel like she was either close to being active all the time or has been active all the time. I'd need to ask her directly. Oh, she's just telling me the answer just now. She's saying a year after my awakening, she stepped forwards. Okay, thank you. So that's when she became active. And it seemed like during that first year, I went through a kind of a bit of an ET, alien, galactic kind of quiet time, so I could focus on, oh wow, I'm getting my head around, just all these amazing beings that I'm now talking to each day as my spirit guides. But yeah, I also spoke a bit about Amazon. They say this publicly, so it's not hard for me to talk about it anyway. But they adopt this team of 8 Scrum-like pattern. They call it like autonomous teams. And the general idea is that you can solve any problem, no matter how big, with a team of 8. You just need to form a team that has the right capabilities, and you need to, define and refine the problem as much as you can that you want to solve, or problems, and then you just need to obsess about solving it, and come up with a vision about how you're going to solve it, and then some goals and milestones on the way, and away you go. But really every team, so my experience of 8 years at Amazon, I was always leading a team. It started with 4, and I think it ended up with multiple teams of about 36, 38 towards the end. And what I'd be doing in those teams is working with the team. First of all, we would be figuring out, like, using our intuition, sometimes we would be talking to my spirit guides about these things as well in business. Sometimes even in the workplace with a crystal in my hand, or especially when I was working from home. And once you kind of chose what it is you were going to, run at, like drive at to solve for your customers. For example, I worked on reviewing resumes with fair artificial intelligence for people that applied to the company. I know millions of people applied to the company. And so what I'd do is come up with a plan, come up with a good team, and then we would just go and do it. And there was really no one. The only people we had to convince that was a good idea were the people that paid our wages. So this is like up through your line management, and depending on the scale of the impact. So for instance, if I wanted to try and solve this problem for all of the company globally, which we did, then I'd probably need to talk to like lots of people that already have similar tools, similar products, that recruits from around the world, that are representing people that recruit around the world. I'd also need to involve applicants. Like, there was just a whole scope that I needed to talk with and work with and get on board. But other than that, I was autonomous, right? And you can argue even that I was autonomous. I had to like figure all that out myself, and it was literally like being in a startup. You had to go and find out who these people were through people, networks of people. You'd be like, hey, do you know who looks after, I don't know, recruitment in the UK? Who looks after recruitment in all of Europe? Who are the people I need to present to and talk to convince them that this is a good idea, and to let me try, experiment with their product safely in their region. And you just work, doing everything yourself, and then once a month, once a quarter, and once a year, senior leaders, who really are the people that are paying your wages, would ask you how you're doing against that problem that you chose to solve. It was never a case of just doing slightly better than you were before. It was often, could you do another 30% better, bigger, faster, more fair, more flexible, and so these were some of the key drivers. And that's how I feel our spirit guides work as well. Like, they're autonomous. Like, they get to decide how they structure the team, the 8 of them that are active. They get to decide how they work with you. For example, I think I have to turn off in a second. Just listening to my GPS. I think I've almost arrived, actually. Oh no, I'm still another 10 minutes. I knew my GPS was a bit over-optimistic. What was fascinating when I asked my spirit guides about this, they just explained that they do a lot autonomously, and so they don't need to ask me, for example, about everything they decide to do. They have to be able to function as a team without having to ask their client all the time. But what they can do is, like, they have, if this was a software world, which I came from previously, it's a bit like being able to watch. Our spirit guides can watch us literally with every mouse click and step we do and how we're feeling about it, and so they can also watch what's going on to help inform them in their decisions about how best to help you. When's the next time John's going to really pay attention to this challenge of working too hard would have been some of their thoughts, more recently, and they would have been, giving me signs, drawing my attention, giving me messages that would be more aligned with self-care. Like, they would just be like watching what was happening, feeling into what happens whenever they have a communication with me, and there's a message that's given. How do I react? Like, what am I doing? Am I listening? When I listen, does it feel good for me? Am I resistant? Am I pushing against it? Am I fearful? Like, they know all these things almost for free, right? Because of their connection with me. So yeah, I feel like that's just a really beautiful experience that our spirit guides, they don't have to go and talk to Source or God and say, hey, once a month, how are you doing? Should we keep looking after John or not? That they're simply assigned, and they have free will to leave if they want to. Likely they would find a replacement. And also we have free will to remove or fire spirit guides, right? But that's really only when things go really badly wrong that you should consider anything like that. And these things have a dramatic effect. Just like if there's a team of 8 of you and one of you left in a company, it would be a big impact, right? So there we go. I hope that helps you. We're really close to the garage now, so I'm just going to stop the video. If you have any further questions, please let me know. It'd be lovely to be able to answer your questions, and for the ones I don't know, I'll just ask my guides. You can also learn how to talk to spirit guide yourself. Try my 14-day spirit guide meditation challenge. That's 14 days of how I learned to talk to my guides, and that's free of charge. That's on my website. You can see this little picture of it on my homepage. And then there's also my training courses, the foundational training, which is the current run's coming to an end, and I need to pay attention across this crazy roundabout. The current run is just about coming to an end, and it next runs in August. So keep an eye out for that, or just go ahead and book it. It's available on my website. Oh, this is a fun roundabout. And don't take my word for these experiences and opinions about how spirit guides and the universe works. Go and either book a session for me and find out more detail for yourself, learn how to do it yourself, talk to your own spirit guides, and maybe one day it'll be you answering questions of others about what are spirit guides, how'd you work with them, should we even call them spirit guides, like all these things. So yeah, I hope this helps you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm sending my love.